What's up, ladies and gents? How we doing? Hope you're having a good Saturday so far. Hope the weekend's going well. Got a decaf coffee in hand. You know the boy don't drink caffeine after about 12:30 p.m. Having Jordan Syatt on the podcast, fat loss coach, fat loss expert, Gary Vee's personal trainer, my mentor, top dude. Drop some questions for him in the comments. We're just going to chat.
What's
Hey
up,
brother,
bro?
what's up? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, man, good. Just in Tel Aviv right now,
Oh, you're in Tel
enjoying
Aviv,
it.
not Haifa.
Yeah. I'm in Tel Aviv for the next couple weeks.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing. Are
Yeah.
you with your teammates?
No, it's just me. Working on some things, like I have some meetings, some possible app development, so some good things in the work over here.
Tel Aviv is the place to do it, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. How are you, man? How's New York?
Good. It's all right. I was looking, I'm calling the Israeli consulate tomorrow when it opens up. I'm going to see if I can come right now. I'm going to see if in about mid-July, my girlfriend and I can get there. I think it's a little bit difficult right now. But if we can get through, I think we're going to be coming around like July 15th or something for a little bit. So we'll see.
Really? Dude,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think the situation now in Israel, like I've had a couple friends come over. You have to quarantine for like 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and then I think everything gets sorted.
Yeah. So, and I even heard that, I don't know how accurate it is, but I heard they like pay for your stay. You go to a hotel, it's
Yeah,
like you pay like you go to like King David or something, like right on the beach
yeah,
right along the Dead Sea. So that would be amazing.
yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, man, if you can just kind of introduce yourself to my audience, grateful to have you on, and kind of take us through your journey, kind of to where you are right now, because I know it's been a great one. I know most of it, but just a little bit of a gist.
Yeah, sure. And I'll start by just people are commenting on my band-aids. I've been doing jujitsu and my fingers are just torn up and I've been having
Yeah,
every time I do it they just start bleeding like crazy. So I'm all out of band-aids. So I'm using these
yeah,
like healing rainbow ones now. Um, but yeah, so I got into the fitness industry just from wrestling. I started wrestling when I was 8 years old, and then I wrestled all through high school from 8 to 18. Made varsity as a freshman, and I beat a junior out for the varsity spot. But I had to cut from 112 pounds to 103 pounds every week, sometimes several times a week, and that is really what got me into fitness. Had to figure out how do I get stronger while losing fat, and I applied to an internship at a gym in a town near me, and they took me under their wing, and they helped me learn a very science-based approach at a very young age. So I remember my first client ever. His name was Fred. He was 68 years old, and he literally just wanted to be able to pick his grandson up without hurting his shoulder. So I got a lot of great perspective and learning in at a very young age, and that's it, man.
mm-hmm. Awesome, awesome. So what kind of got you back into like the wrestling, the jujitsu? Because I mean, I kind of I had told I had told my dad that one of my goals for this year is to kind of get back into MMA and things like that, because I think just the confidence that you have, like being able to defend yourself and protect yourself, is huge. So I said, I'm in Israel, so I'm doing Krav Maga now, and I
Nah,
absolutely love it.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, when I
Yeah,
was there, the first time I lived in Israel when I was 18, because I took a year off between high school and college. I lived in Israel for a year, and I was still super obsessed with wrestling. Wrestling was my life, like wrestling and girls. That was like all I thought about for the majority of
yeah,
my. And then, so when I went to Israel, I lived around the corner from a Krav Maga studio, and they let me teach wrestling to the youth. Well, and then I would get free Krav Maga classes, so I loved it. Um,
hmm
when I started coaching Gary, started coaching Gary Vaynerchuk, my fitness and nutrition just went out the window for the first time in my life. Like for the first time ever, I wasn't able to work out like I wanted to, wasn't able to lift like I wanted to, wasn't able to eat like I wanted to. And I was also just hyper focused on business. So gained a lot of body fat, lost a lot of muscle, and I really missed wrestling and I missed grappling and fighting. So near like the last year with Gary, I actually got into boxing, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed it. Learned a whole different science of striking, and really boxing really is a science. It's really incredible. I enjoy it a lot. But nostalgia is a very powerful emotion, and I really missed getting on the mats and rolling around and wrestling and grappling. And jiu-jitsu is interesting to me because it includes wrestling, but it adds the component of submission, of like, it's not just control, it's also cool, we can break your arm, we can choke you out, we can whatever it is. So there's an extra science on top of it, which I find very cool. Wrestling I found is more brute strength, conditioning. Technique is important, but not as important. Jiu-jitsu, you need it. So I got into jiu-jitsu about a year ago, and I've been obsessed with it. Then quarantine all started, and I had to stop. And then very recently, I need to get back into it. So I'm working with a coach one-on-one right now, and he's literally, I've been going 6 days a week, and
Awesome.
yeah, it's awesome, man. I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I think from a fitness perspective, it's super important because this goes back to doing something you love, right? You have to find something you love. And I was a competitive power lifter for years, and I loved it. But someone actually just asked me today, they're like, why'd you stop powerlifting? Why'd you stop making content around powerlifting? And it was because I don't love it anymore. Like I got to a point where I was like, I just don't love it. I'm not passionate about it. And if you get to that point with something and you start being inconsistent with it, it's like, what's the point, right? So now I'm so in love with jiu-jitsu and fighting and grappling. It's like getting there every day it's harder for me not to go than it is to go. I think finding that in your fitness journey is the most important thing.
For sure, for sure. No, I completely agree with you. And, you know, for me, it's kind of the same thing. Like one of the most common things I get is like, you know, what's my favorite cheat meal and things like that. And for me,
well, you're
like,
also shredded, bro.
I'm okay. I'm okay. But, you know, just like you said, like sometimes, you know, it's harder to, and I'm, you know, I'm all about like, you kind of harped on the consistency standpoint to me. And like, you've been a mentor to me to no end. Like people don't understand, help me grow my business and be consistent with my content. And can't thank you enough. Like, I don't know if you realize it, but like, you know, straight up, you know, and that's why I think business and fitness is so beautiful combined, because I always tell people, like, I think building a good body is similar to building a good business. It's doing the simple things right consistently. There's no magic trick. There's no fat loss pill. There's no get rich quick pill. There's no waist slimming belt. It's doing the simple shit that isn't easy consistently, and having that discipline. And you know, you put things so simply, and I just think the way you connect with people and from an emotional standpoint is unbelievable. And I know a lot of soccer players who watch this, a lot of footballers, we always talk about networking and building connections. And it doesn't matter if you're a soccer player or a business owner or working a 9-to-5 job, building good relationships with people, I think, is a staple of a good life. So I just find it, how did you like get so good at being able to build connections and relationships with people? Is there anything you could kind of put your finger on? I don't know, maybe it's a weird question, but it's something that's interesting to me, you know, that you have that knack, you know what I mean?
First of all, thank you. I appreciate that. And just in terms of hard work, man, you've blown me away with your consistency and your effort. Like if I've ever suggested something, you do it, and it's just like you go hard on it. I like that because I've told a lot of people to do stuff, and I can count on maybe two hands how many people have actually done it. So that's amazing. You know, I think a lot of it is just sort of genetic and genes, and sort of it's in my nature. But I also think there's two important components as well. I think my mom is a major component of it's just how I was raised in regard to. I'll never forget when I was a kid and I went to soccer camp or wrestling camp or just like camp over the summer. My mom deliberately went out of her way to make sure that I was not going to camp with anyone that I knew from school. I got super mad about it, and I did not like it because all of my friends, that usually friends would go to a certain camp, and the parents would love it because they could carpool, they wouldn't have to drive every day. But I vividly remember my mom being like, I don't want you going to camp with people you already know, because that way you're not going to meet anybody new. You hang out with the people you already know, you just stay with them, and then there might be someone else that you could have met that you wouldn't. So I want you to go have the opportunity to meet new people, put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and do that. And so I think that was a huge part of it. And it wasn't just with camp. It was in many situations my mom would require me to go out and meet new people. And I think that was a huge part of it. And then I also think another aspect of it is, probably going back to my mom, is she was always very intent on teaching me to be a good listener and teaching me to ask good questions. I think those two skills are very closely intertwined, and very few people actually do them enough. I think most people think that they're listening, but the reality is most people are listening in a way to find out what's the best thing for them to say next. Like, how can they listen in a way that will help them put something good into the conversation? But when that's your intent as a listener, you're not actually listening. You're not actually. And so for me, I remember my mom would sit us down and we would have conversations, which be like, no, like, so I just said this. Now, what's a good question to ask? Like, how to dig deeper. And my mom's a lawyer. She was an unbelievable lawyer. And I think she really taught me how to listen to people and dig deeper into what they're saying, because the better you get at not only listening, but asking for more questions, the more you learn about how similar we all are as humans, and the better you can relate to people and connect with people. I'll never forget I think one of the most awkward positions people find themselves in is like at a party. You go to a party, you don't really know people. And so it's like everyone's doing the thing where they have a drink in their hands, they're holding it like this, just like looking around. And so I think, for example, getting into that situation, I think a lot of people are very anxious and don't know how to progress a conversation in that situation. So for me, it's sort of about finding ways, okay, well, how do I get into this situation, and what can I say to get the conversation rolling so it's not worried, no one's anxious, no one's like looking around. So one of my favorite things to do, and I learned this years ago, is like when you have a conversation with someone, you just, first thing you ask is like, where do you live and how did you end up there? Because when you ask someone how did they end up there, there's always a story. Even if they just lived there the whole life. But if I ask you, how did you get to Tel Aviv? That's a whole fucking story. Where have you been before that? And so as a coach, as a friend, as a whatever, having these little questions that allow people to dig deeper and to give you more information about them helps a lot.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. And I think, one thing that I really learned from you that you always harp on is like being able to story tell. And like I said before, also Mike Vacanti's a big mentor of mine, you and Mike. And even though, I'm in the mentorship and I'm part of it, I still I've listened to every single one of your podcasts together. And one thing about you two that's really unique is like, I've listened to so many podcasts, man, maybe like 100 podcasts, but every time I turn yours on, it's like there's so much overwhelming information out there in the fitness industry and in any industry. But when you turn your guys' podcast on, you just feel at ease, calm. It's, you guys both know so much, and you've coached top people, you still coach top people, and you have large audiences, but you remain humble, and that's something that I always want to be. No matter what, I always want to remain humble no matter what happens. And my mom always taught me as well. Jewish mothers treat the janitor the same as the CEO, and I've always been in that way. Like I don't care. I'm always gonna. Humans are humans. And without going too far off topic, like when I put your guys' podcast on, it just puts me at ease, and just the way that you have that scientific knowledge, but you're able to connect with people on a personal level is unbelievable.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that a lot. Seriously.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to ask, what's one of like your most favorite, stories coaching Gary V? Like any good funny stories?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of good stories about coaching Gary. All right, this is a relatively brief one, but this is a funny one. So when you have to sort of, I guess to preface it, I have to give some background. When I first found out that I was going to be coaching Gary, I didn't believe it was true. I thought it was like a prank. So when Mike called me and told me that I was going to coach Gary, initial reaction was excitement, but immediate subsequent reaction was, is this real? Because I was living in Tel Aviv. I was living in Kibbutz Rabin. I was living my best life in Tel Aviv. I was like, this is great. And then I thought that I was just going to live there. I was looking for a house. I was ready to make Aliyah. And
wow.
They were like, all right, move to New York or you're going to coach Gary. And I was like, if I move to New York and this isn't real, like that's fucked. But that's where my mind went. And so I packed up my bags, moved to New York, and it was very odd for me to be coaching Gary. I looked up to him, like he was super famous. And so for me to go and coach someone, to leave my home in Israel, go all the way across the world, coach this guy who I looked up to, read his books, all this stuff, I was like, man, this is really surreal. So also on top of that, for the first month of me coaching Gary, Mike was with us. So Mike stayed with us for the first month as like a transition phase. But my mind was like, man, Mike must be here just in case Gary doesn't like me, so that he can like go back to Mike if like it's not a good scenario. So I'm like constantly on and super worried. And when you're coaching Gary, you're texting him constantly all day, every day. What are you eating? Where are you? All this stuff. And it's weird for me. I feel like I'm bothering this super busy CEO and I don't want to do it. And so one day we're at Gary's house and Gary leaves and Gary like goes to a baseball game. He goes to a baseball game. He goes and he's in the box seats in like the super nice area, and he hasn't replied to me in a while. And Mike is getting on me. Mike is like, message him. He's probably doing something he should be doing. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like, hey man, what are you eating? No response. Like, hey man, everything good? No response. Are you eating, man? No response. And Mike is like, call him. All this, I'm like, like this is crazy.
Yeah.
A few hours go by, nothing, like no response. And finally Mike just goes like, all right, well, that's lost. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. So the next morning, Gary comes and he knocks on our door. And so I'm like, oh, fuck. So I wake up, jump out of bed. I'm like, hey, man, everything all right? And Gary looks at me, and this is within the first couple weeks of me working with him. He looks at me, and he just looks so upset and ashamed with himself. He's like, man, not good. And I was like, what's not good? And he was like, man, it was bad. And I was like, what do you mean? What happened? And he was like, I ate a lot. And I was like, how much? And he's just like, a lot. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that bad. And he was like, no, it was bad. And I was like, all right, man, well, so what'd you eat? And he just looks at me and he goes, beans. And I was like, beans? He was like, beans. A lot of beans. I was like, well, I mean, you couldn't have had that many beans. And he was like, no. I had a lot of beans. He gained over 5 pounds that night just from eating. You know those like big barbecue silver trays with like baked beans in them?
Yeah.
He had a massive portion of baked beans at the game. And then thinking back on it, just like after working with him for 3 years, you sort of know his games. he definitely ate more than beans. Like he definitely had like some burgers and definitely had fries and definitely had like whatever else was there. But he probably had a bunch of chicken wings. But I'll never forget that within the first couple of weeks of just like the beans story. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's unreal. That's unreal. What are you drinking? Coffee?
yeah, I got some coffee. My phone's propped up against a little protein shake right there. Got the apple, so got the whole
Love it,
set.
man. Love it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
man.
I don't want to keep you for too long.
Yeah, and
I know you're a busy guy.
it looks like we got
Uh,
some people on the line. So anything you want to
yeah.
talk about, we can talk about.
Yeah, you want to do some? Want to try to answer some questions or?
Yeah, we can do a Q&A if people have any questions. Let's see. If anyone has any questions, you could drop them below. We'll see if we can go through.
Yeah, let me drop a question.
I know someone said when you say coach, was it fitness coaching or general life coaching? I'm assuming you mean about coaching Gary. That was just fitness coaching, strength training, and nutrition. For anyone who doesn't know, I coached Gary Vaynerchuk literally 7 days a week for 3 years straight. If he was in Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong. If he was in LA, I was in LA. Just traveled the world coaching Gary. So that was pretty intense. All right, there we go. Now we're getting some questions. Can I eat too much beans? Does it cause inflammation? You want to answer that one, bro?
I mean, I'd say every food should generally be eaten in moderation.
Yep.
If you eat too much of any food, I mean, for example, if you eat too many vegetables, it's not going to cause inflammation, but you may be bloated. So there's like many different definitions of bloating, of inflammation. Like there's obviously internal inflammation. There's, within the organs and things like that. But honestly, I wouldn't think too depth into it. I would just enjoy the baked beans in a reasonable portion and not overthink it causing inflammation.
Yeah, there's a lot here. I would say just 100% agree. Everything in moderation. You could drink too much water and die. Too much or too little of anything is bad for you, right? I also think the word inflammation has been, or the term inflammation has been like massively overused. It's almost like metabolism. Everyone talks about metabolism. I think I have a slow metabolism, but they don't know what the fuck metabolism is. Like they don't even know what they're talking about. Same thing with inflammation. Inflammation is actually essential. If your body isn't able to get inflamed, then you actually die. Inflammation is essential for human life. Right? So there are good aspects of inflammation and there's bad aspects. And usually it's when you go too far to one end or the other. So I don't think eating too many beans would cause a negative inflammation response or inflammatory response. But I probably do think your significant other or people you work with close to you would not be too pleased with you eating too many baked beans.
Exactly.
Someone goes, what's the best advice you can give when it comes to getting clients as a trainer? You want to start with that? I know you've been crushing it lately.
I would say learn from the best, help as many people out as possible for free, and don't look for any kickback. So for example, if you're posting 3 Instagrams per day, it's the same thing as training your body. Like we had spoken about before, like if you're training often, you can't expect instant results. Like you're going to see, some changes in the mirror. You're going to see maybe some more likes on a post or some more DMs, and maybe you'll get a client or two. But, it's just consistency over time and being just like, for me, it's just being a good human. Like be a good guy, be a good girl, like help and don't expect any kickback.
Yeah.
That's kind of
I think that's it. I would say, and there's a lot, right? There's so many different pieces of advice. I'll give 2 pieces of advice. First one is if you've never coached anybody in person, coach people in person. Coaching people in person coaching people in person will make you a better online coach. Coaching people online will not make you a better in person coach. I think there's nuance to that. We can discuss it. I think online coaching from a nutrition perspective can improve your in-person coaching, but in-person coaching from a strength training perspective, you can't improve that online.
For sure.
So coaching people in person, you're going to learn a lot about cueing, about understanding your clients, what type of person they are, what people do well with certain movements, blah, blah, blah. In addition to that, I would say, sort of just to tag along what you said, is be a good person. Help people for free for years, over and over and over and over and over and over. I see a huge push recently for this like high ticket coaching, like charging inordinate amounts of money. And there's nothing wrong with making money at all. You can use money to do incredible things in the world. I think that if you're a coach and you're looking to get into the coaching world in order to become a high ticket coach, you're already fucking up. Like, you're getting into coaching to try and sell people at a ridiculously high price point, when the reality is you should start by working for free, helping people for free, and then build up enough of a repertoire and build enough of a skill to then charge more for your coaching. But don't charge more just because you can. Charge more because you actually know your services are worth it, and the only way to get
Exactly.
to actually fucking help people for free for years.
And just to add on that, something that I learned from you and Mike as well is like, trust your gut and trust your intuition. Like, if you are charging an inordinate amount and it doesn't feel good, but you want to be working on the beach and, making six figures and all these BS marketing things that you see on Facebook and this, like Jordan said, making money, you need to make money to, provide for your family, eat and things like that. But you need to, like he said, and I think you need to educate yourself enough that you can actually help people and change people's perspective on life and how they look at their day-to-day and their habits and their eating behaviors, their training behaviors. And then, you have to be able to trust your gut enough to, when you start charging money, that you have to know that your service is worth it. Like for me, when I charge a certain amount of money, if I don't feel like, I always try to over deliver. Like if I don't feel like if I feel like I'm charging too much, I just don't feel good. And I know you and Mike have talked about that before. Like, you got to trust that feeling.
Yep. 100%. I agree. Someone wrote, I just lost it. Someone said to the effect of, let's see. Someone said, Jordan, were you ever nervous about going on camera when first starting a business? Oh yeah, I was.
That's a good one.
If you want to see how bad I was on camera when I first started, go to my YouTube channel, and on YouTube you can sort the videos by the newest or the oldest. Go to my YouTube channel and look at and sort it oldest first. You'll see my first ever videos, and like, there are videos of me in my college gym, red in the face. Like, I don't know if you could see that I was shaking, but I was shaking, I promise you. And one thing that I would do, my like nervous tick, when I was doing videos, is I would go side to side. You'll see me just like, hi, my name's Jordan Syatt. This is exercise video of the week. I'm going to show you how to do the single leg Romanian deadlift. And I would be going like this because I was so nervous. And I only ever realized it because someone filming me, I would ask random people to film me. And I'd be like, hey man, could you film me and do this video? And one of the guys who I randomly asked to film me was like, dude, why are you swaying side to side? And I was like, I didn't even realize it. And then I literally had to like lock my feet into place and shove my hands by my side so I wouldn't be swaying anymore. And that felt awkward. So if you go back and look at my articles from 2011, 2012, 2013, my videos from 2012, 2013, 2014, you'll see and read a very different coach. Very different coach for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So I was petrified for sure. I think one of the things that's helped me a lot though is there's a certain point in which I realized that if I just looked at the camera as though I was looking in the eye of someone that I was coaching, it made it way better. So it's for me, coaching people one-on-one in person is very easy. I feel very comfortable with it. So if I just look at the camera as though I'm coaching one person, all of a sudden it becomes very easy for me. I think the fear comes in when you imagine many, many people watching you and judging you. But when
Mm-hmm.
it's one person, much of that fear is gone. So that's helped me a lot.
Mm. Yeah, and just to add on that, it's like, just like Jordan said, like, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. It's the same thing with any technique, whether you're wrestling, whether you're playing soccer, whether you're in the gym. You know, in the beginning, you know, when you first learn a technique, you know, you have to take it slowly, step by step. And you have to, like Jordan said, you ask people for cues, like, you know, did you see anything wrong with my hips? Did you see it? Was I touching the ball wrong in any way? Do you recommend anything? And even going back to what Jordan said in the beginning, like putting himself in how his mom put himself in uncomfortable situations, you have to be willing to kind of hear something that you don't want to hear. Like, you know, if someone says something, you can't get too offended because maybe it's really true and you have to kind of adjust that. And over time, when you fix that, it's just like if you're trying to improve your sprint technique and you film yourself, like you improve those little things over time. And then people say, oh, how'd you get so good on camera? How is your sprint technique so good? And it's just like repetitions over time, you know?
That's 100% right, man. 100%. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I wanted to also touch on, you know, did a lot of your discipline in business, did that come from wrestling? Because a lot of wrestlers I know, man, like you guys are the most disciplined guys I know, you know, I've met.
It's actually really funny you bring that up because I was talking to I went to Boston recently to film some videos for a separate company, and he was telling me that he's started to hire wrestlers because he's found that wrestlers are like the most determined. He's not in wrestling at all, but he's like, if I can ever find a wrestler, then I'm going to hire them over someone else. I think there's something about that sport that it weeds out people who are either it weeds it out. So this is the question, right? Is it that they weed out the people who aren't that driven, or is it that it can make you more driven? That's is like the chicken or the egg type of thing. I don't know. It definitely, I mean, to be frank with you, there are things that I did as a wrestler in terms of cutting weight and starving myself and outrageous workouts that like I can't imagine doing now. And I hope it's because I hope it's because I just know that the stuff I did was really stupid, not because I've lost the determination or drive. But I mean, either or. But I think what's really interesting is the amount of determination and drive someone has. I've found is always directly correlated with how much they believe they can succeed. Right. So as someone believes that they can succeed, their drive and determination increases. Whereas the less someone believes they can succeed, the less hard they will work, right? So for me, what was very helpful for me that I did not do on purpose with my business is I saw someone like Eric Cressy, or I saw someone like Dan John. I saw someone like Pavel Tsatsouline. And I saw them from a very young age solely from the perspective of how much they've helped me and how much of an impact they've had on me. And my mind was, I want to do that for other people. It wasn't based around business. It wasn't based around finances. It wasn't based around financial security. As important as all of those things are, that's not where it came from. And so me seeing what they were doing, I was like, I can help people for sure. I know I can. So the more that I put content out and the more that I saw people were liking it and commenting on it and telling me that it helped them, the more I believed, oh, this is actually making a difference. I can actually, and then just through osmosis of doing that, business grows, business grows, business grows. But I think it starts with doing something. It's finding the way to build up your confidence as much as possible. Whatever you can do that is going to build up your confidence. And I think if you're going from nothing, starting with trying to make as much money as you can is sort of like if you're starting at a very heavy weight, you're like 40% body fat and being like, okay, well, I want to have a six pack. It's like, it's going to take a long time. So instead of focusing on the six pack, let's try and focus on getting to a smaller pant size, right? It's like, that's how you get more determined, because, whoa, pant size went down. Now your motivation is higher because you actually believe you can do it. So I think by complete accident, a lot of my determination came from a slow and progressive growth rather than only looking at like what I didn't even realize were possibilities at the time.
For sure. Just to relate to that, I had a friend message me the other day. Oh, wow, you know, your social media is awesome. You know, your media is awesome. And I said, yeah, you know, I love doing it and I enjoy helping people. And I just have a lot of fun doing it. And then he said, you must have a big dream. I said, yeah, of course. And then he's like, what is it? And I was like, you know, bro, to be honest, like I do have a big dream, like 5 to 10 years, but honestly, I just focus on the day. Like I just enjoy the day. Like I have my, like you do every day. You taught me this method, this 1-3-5, and
How
bro,
good
bro, it's unbelievable, dude. And I do it every day, and I just focus on that. I focus on the 1-3-5 every day. And one thing I do lately now is like, you know, have my journal, and then like, for example, if I'm journaling on a Sunday and I see my 1-3-5, I kind of like duplicate the day. So I look back on the last Sunday and I kind of shift it over. If it was a good day, I do the same type of things. And like we talked about before with shifting the way you're on camera, the way your technique is, it's similar to like, you know, shifting your days and nailing your to-dos. And without going too far off topic, I told the guy, it's like, I just focus on the day. I know if I focus on the day and I own the day and I get done what I need to get done, and like you always say, make the choice that's going to make you feel best at the end of the day. When you hit the pillow, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're brushing your teeth at night, did you make the right choice? And sometimes maybe you didn't make the right choice. You know, some people think I'm a robot. I always make the right choice. But then you shift and like I always take what I did in and I shift it and you learn from that. And yeah, I just think that's so powerful. Just like focusing on the right now and trying to own the day. And like you said, it just, you know, it duplicates and over time, what is it? The domino effect or something like that.
It's funny you bring that up. I was at jiu-jitsu yesterday and one of my boxing coach, his name's Rob, is there, and he's over quarantine. He's lost a ton of weight, like big, super strong, like unbelievably strong. And he's lost a ton of weight. And I'm always interested in how people do it. I'm like super interested in learning, like, how'd you do it? What motivated you to do it? Like, what was the point? And he told me some super interesting things. And he said the first thing he told me, which usually the first thing is like the biggest thing, right? Is like, I was like, how'd you do it? He goes, well, I changed my route to the gym. And I was like, what do you? He was like, every day I would walk to the gym and every day I would stop at Krispy Kreme and I would get 6 donuts. And so I would eat those donuts. And he was like, and I knew if I had to walk by that Krispy Kreme, I'd get the donuts. So rather than trying to like muscle my way through it, I just walked a different route. And that was like, that was literally it.
Unreal.
Like, oh my God, that's such an amazing insight. Because this guy's lost a tremendous amount of weight in a relatively short time. And he said, he was like, man, I used to think it was about losing weight was about doing really big things, like taking big things, making big changes. He was like, it's just about doing small things, but actually doing them. And that's really what it is. It's just actually doing it. And that's, you know, the cliche Nike phrase, like, just do it. That's really all it fucking is. It's like, just fucking do it. Little things, huge long term.
Yeah, and one thing that you always have preached that I love is like that cycle of like you just said, do it, then you see like like, okay, you come out, you let's take a simple example. You focus on getting 8 hours of sleep tonight. Let's focus on getting 8 hours of sleep tonight. We get 8 hours of sleep tonight. We wake up, we feel much more refreshed. Then what? Then we're probably going to have a better breakfast. Which is going to lead to, like you talk about, the result, which is more energy, which is then going to lead to, and I think momentum's huge. That's why I kind of brought this up, and I love what you talk about, which is going to lead to you probably doing your workout, and it's just going to lead to better decisions over the day.
Yes.
And then the result is you feel so much better. So
Yep.
you're going to be motivated to do more tomorrow. And like you said, first do the action, then
Yep.
you'll see the result, then you'll be more motivated, and it's a cycle.
That's it. As you articulate perfectly. I agree 100%, man. So some people are asking about the 1-3-5. So we'll give them a brief rundown of what that is, then we'll call it. But this method I absolutely love. It's a method of productivity. I think my buddy Pat Flynn taught this to me. It must have been 5 or 6 years ago. Basically, it goes like this. So every day, when you're making a to-do list, it's very easy just to group everything into like one thing, and it's almost overwhelming. So for me, I have one thing at the top. At the top of my to-do list, I have one. It's just your one do or die priority. It's the one thing that you must do that day. And even if nothing else gets accomplished, at least you've done this one thing. Could be anything. When I was focusing on powerlifting, oftentimes that one thing would be just getting my workout in. That would be the one thing I had to do. When I was focusing on writing articles, oftentimes like a long form article, like my one thing would be write the article. That was my one thing for the day. So you have your one. It's your do or die. You must fucking do it. No questions asked. Then you have your 3. These are 3 things. I call these your daily medication. These are things that they take time, and they don't need to be done that day, but put some work into them, especially if you can. So there's just 3 things. They're important. They should be done relatively soon, in the next few days probably, and they require your attention, but they're not urgent. They're not must do right now. Then you have 5, and this is the bottom of the pyramid, and these are what I call like your nap time activities. So if you're going to be taking a nap, or if you're going to be procrastinating, or if you're going to be like doing stupid shit, if you're going to be going on Twitter down a dark rabbit hole of political nonsense, you're not going to feel good afterwards. Do something else that's going to be productive. For me, a lot of my nap time activities have been, for me lately, doing getting my 10,000 steps in, because that's very much in line with my goal. It could be answering emails. I fucking hate answering emails, but it's still got to get done. So I'll put that in my nap time activities. It could be studying jujitsu. Whatever it is, for me, it's different for everybody. But there's something that will still make me better as long as I've done it, and I can do it instead of being a bum. And that's really what my nap time activities are. So that's the 1-3-5 method.
Awesome, man. And studying Hebrew is really, I got to put that in there every day, man.
Dude, are you
that's a hard language. Yeah, I'm doing the online Ulpan, man. It is tough language.
Man,
you speak it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Israel for several years, and I took intensive Ulpan. I knew nothing when I went. I knew how to say hello, and I knew how to say where's the bathroom. But what I used to do, I don't know if you know this story. When I first went there and I first started taking Ulpan, what I would do is I learned one phrase. I learned "Echani magia letachana merkazit." How do I get to the bus station? I just learned one phrase. And then I would go around the city. I would go around Tel Aviv, and I would ask everybody, how do I get to the bus station? And then I'd listen to their directions. And then they'd be like, Kol hazman yashar, 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 yamina, yashar. And I was like, I would just listen to it, and that was it. That's how I learned the word. Traffic light, ramzor. It's like you don't expect to hear that, but they kept saying you're gonna arrive at the traffic light and then take a right, and I'd be like, what the fuck is ramzor? And finally, I realized it. But that's how I really learned the majority of my Hebrew, is going up to random people. And actually, I'm reading a great book right now, Anti-Fragile, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And he talks about that in the book. And he talks about in the book, he's like, no one has ever learned a language from a book or from like anything. Like, they never learn a language like that. The only way to learn a language is yourself in very uncomfortable situations, to have conversations where you won't understand everything, and ask them to repeat things or say whatever it is. He's like, that's how you learn a language. Like, think about how a baby learns a language. It's like they learn a language by like, that's how it works. So if you're going to be in Tel Aviv for a while, I could put you in touch with my Hebrew teacher, who's amazing. He's absolutely incredible. And
why not?
He does like long-term courses, but also week-long intensive courses. I did it like for 8 hours a day for a week, and that was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unreal. Wow. For sure. Who wrote that book? Nissim Taleb? Is he Israeli?
Taleb. Taleb. I
Is,
don't Nassim Taleb or Taleb Nassim. I forget which one is
he's
first.
Israeli, yeah?
I don't know if he's Israeli. I'm not sure. I believe
Okay.
Middle Eastern, but I'm not sure what his actual heritage is.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great book. But hey, man, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah,
We
man.
got
This
to
was a
catch up
blast.
when you come to Tel Aviv,
Yeah, I'll let you know if we're gonna get out there. But
for
we're working
sure.
on it. I'll let you know. But this was great, man.
Sounds good, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to end off with? One piece of advice for anyone listening.
One piece of advice is follow this guy. He's the man. Really, I remember our first ever conversation. He works super hard. He cares. He's incredibly kind and generous. He's very authentic. And I know authentic is overused nowadays, but it means a lot. Like when I say that, I'm very serious. So follow this guy. He's the man.
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate it. Be good. Stay safe out there.
Have a good one, man. Bye bye.
All right, brother. Thank you. Bye.